Greetings to everyone. These are all the things that I've learned in the child and adolescence learn and learn. As a human, I am really curious in how I develop myself, my mind, how I interact to others, and how I socialize. Even on how I develop from infant up to now. But because of this subject, the child and adolescents learn and learn, it helps me to find all the answers that I really wanted to have. It get all the answers that I really wanted to hear. So, are you ready? Ready your ears and listen to all the things that I've learned in this subject. The topic for week 1 is human development. We all know that human development is the physical, cognitive, and psychological development of humans throughout the lifespan. With the help of the 3 domains, which is the physical, cognitive, and psychosocial domain, it really helps us to know how human develops. It has also the processes that focuses on the changes of something in us. Human development has also approaches, and it has also principles and characteristics of lifespan perspective. In lifespan approach, the adulthood development change takes place as it does during childhood. One of the characteristics of lifespan perspective is that the development of this is lifelong. For week 2, it focuses on the stages of development and developmental tasks. We all know that we develop from infancy up to late childhood. Before, I really think that we're just human. But I learned that we really experience this all, from infancy, early childhood, middle and late childhood, adolescence, early adulthood, middle adulthood, and late adulthood, except when you die young. For week 3, it focuses on the teachers as consumers and users of research, teachers as researchers. Research gives teachers and also policymakers important knowledge to use in decision making for the benefit of learners and their families. Research enables teachers to come up with informed decision on what to teach and how to teach. Since research is a systematic and logical process, one important principle in research is adherence to the scientific method. Dewey gives us 5 steps of the scientific development. First is identify and define the problem. Second is determine the hypothesis. Third, collect the analyzed data. Fourth, formulate conclusions. And fifth, apply conclusions to the original hypothesis. We also have research design, having different research styles and data gathering techniques also. For week 4, the topic is Sigmund Freud's psychosexual theory. It is called psychosexual stages because each stage represents the fixation of libido on a different area of the body. As a person grows physically, certain areas of their body become important sources of potential frustration, pleasure, or both. Freud also conceptualized the personality as having 3 parts: the ID, the ego, and the superego. The role of conflict. Each of the psychosexual stages is associated with a particular conflict that must be resolved before the individual can successfully advance to the next stage. Frustration, overindulgence, and fixation. Some people are seen to not able to leave one stage and proceed on the next. The reason for this is that the developing individual may not have been adequately met, in which there is frustration, or the developing individual's needs are well satisfied, making him or her reluctant to leave, in which where is overindulgence. Both frustration and overindulgence may lead to what psychoanalysts call fixation at a particular psychosexual stage. Psychosexual stages of development involves oral stage, which is 0 to 1 years old, anal stage, which is 1 to 3 years old, phallic stage is 3 to 5 or 6 years old, the latency stage 5 to 6 years to puberty, genital stage puberty to adult. For week 5 is the P.ED stage of cognitive development. It involves the basic cognitive concept, the schema, assimilation, accommodation, and equilibration. P.ED stages of cognitive development involves also sensory motor stage, pre-operational stage, concrete operational stage, and formal operational stage. Sensory motor stage corresponds from birth to infancy. Pre-operational stage covers from about 2 to 7 years old. The concrete operational stage covers approximately the ages between 8 to 11 years, or the elementary school years. In the formal operational stage covering ages between 12 and 15 years, thinking becomes more logical. For week 6, it tackles about the topic of Erik Erikson's psychosocial theory of development. Erik Erikson was a German-born analyst who learned not only from Freud's work, but also from its study of Sioux and Euro-Indians in the United States, where he spent much of his adult life as a teacher and clinical practitioner. Building on Freud's psychosexual theory, Erikson drew a broader and more positive picture of what ideally should happen in each stage of development. Psychosexual theory of development. A central conflict or psychosocial crisis must be faced and new skills acquired. In the process, the abler in the individual is to resolve the crisis successfully. The more likely to he or she is experience healthy development in the future. There are 8 stages of psychosocial development. First is the trust versus mistrust, which is from birth to 12 months. Second is the autonomy versus shame, 1 year old up to 3 years old. Third is the initiative versus guilt, which is 3 to 6 years old. Fourth is the industry versus inferiority, 6 to 12 years old. Fifth is the identity versus role confusion, which is 12 to 8 years old. Sixth is the intimacy versus isolation, young adulthood. Seventh is the generosity versus stagnation, middle adulthood. Eighth is the integrity versus despair, late adulthood. For week 7, it focuses on Kohlberg's theory of moral development. Kohlberg believed that moral development depended on moral reasoning that was learned in 3 levels, each having 2 stages. Pre-conventional reasoning. It is the moral reasoning directed initially by the expectation of punishment from external sources and later by an interest in personal reward. Second is the conventional reasoning, initially to get approval and later in response to law and a sense of duty. And post-conventional reasoning, reasoning guided by community versus individual rights, and later by universal principles of ethics. Week 8 tackles about the Vygotsky socio-cultural theory. Vygotsky socio-cultural theory grew from the work of seminal psychologist Lev Vygotsky, who believed that parents, caregivers, peers, and the culture at large were responsible for developing high-order function. Vygotsky's theory focuses more on social, while P.ED focuses more on individual. P.ED's theory was more individual, while Vygotsky was more social. Vygotsky believed that in the crucial role that culture played on the cognitive development of children. In this topic, language defined as the opening the door for learners to acquire knowledge that others already have. Learners can use language to know and understand the world, solve problems. Language serves as social function, but it also has important individual function. The zone of represents a learning opportunity where a knowledgeable adult assisting the child's development. The support of assistance that lets the child accomplish a task he cannot accomplish independently is called scaffolding. Learning depends on the skill of the MKO, which is the more knowledgeably adder, and the learner's readiness and ability to learn, and the difficulty of the skill being learned. And for the week 9, Bonfenbrenner Ecological Theory. The ecological system theory was developed by Yuri Bonfenbrenner. He believed that a person's development was affected by everything in their surrounding environment. It describes multi-part layers of environment that has an effect on the development of the child. Bonfenbrenner's bioecological model structure of environment. First is the microsystem, is the system closest to the person and the one in which he has direct contact. Second is the mesosystem. This layer serves as the connection between the structure of the child's microsystem. The third is the exosystem. This layer refers to the bigger social system in which the child does not function directly. The macrosystem is the fourth. This layer is found in the outermost part in the child's environment. The macrosystem includes the cultural values, customs, and laws. Bonfenbrenner's theory reminds also that the school and the teachers of their very important role. This theory helps teachers look into every child's environmental systems in order to understand more about the characteristics and needs of each learner. The schools and the teachers can contribute stability and long-term relationships, but only to support and not to replace the relationships in the home. Here we go for the week 10. It focuses on the prenatal period. Just like the other stages in theory of development, prenatal period also has this kind of stages, which is from germinal period up to fetal period, that will last from about 2 months after conception until 9 months when the infant is born. Prenatal development has also its own hazards, just like for example the prescription and non-prescription of drugs. It causes hazards to a prenatal description. A pregnant woman also who drank caffeinated coffee were more likely to have preterm deliveries and newborns with lower birth weight compared to their counterparts who did not drink caffeinated coffee. Heavy drinking by pregnant women results to the so-called fetal alcoholic syndrome, or FAS. I also learned that human life begins at conception. Indeed, the mother's womb developing a human being, just like me. The sacrifices of the mother started from the day of their conception until the child see the beauty of the world, still the mother leading us and help us to face the bright future. For week 11, it focuses on physical development of infants and toddlers. It has two patterns, the cephalocaudal and proximodistal patterns. The cephalocaudal trend is the postnatal growth from conception to 5 months, when the head grows more than the body. This cephalocaudal trend growth that applies to the development of the fetus also applies in the first months after birth. The second one is the proximodistal trend, is the prenatal growth from 5 months to birth, when the fetus grows from the inside of the body outwards. This also applies in the first months after birth, as shown, followed by the hands and fingers. The physical development of infants and toddlers involves the height and weight, brain development, melanization, motor development, reflexes, all kinds of reflexes, motor skills, gross motor skill, and fine motor skill. The newborn's vision is about 10 to 30 times lower than the normal adult vision. By 6 months of age, vision becomes better, and by the first birthday, the infant's vision approximates that of an adult. These are some research findings regarding newborns' visual perception. For week 12, it focuses on the cognitive development of infants and toddlers. Sensory motor development. Children go through a period of dramatic growth and learning. As kids interact with their environment, they are continually making new discoveries about how the world works. This is the first cognitive development of infants and toddlers. Second is the object permanence. The term object permanence is used to describe a child's ability to know that objects continue to exist even though they can no longer be seen or heard. Third is the language development. Here are just a few of the important things your child might achieve in language development between 3 months and 8 years. Week 13 focuses on the socio-emotional development of infants and toddlers. Infants and toddlers have also socio-emotional development. The formative years, it is said that the importance of the first 3 years in human development. They are so-called the informative years, whereas the parents, caregivers have a significant role in the development of the child. Second is the attachment. For healthy socio-emotional development, the infant needs to establish an enduring emotional bond characterized by a tendency to seek and maintain closeness to a specific figure, particularly during stressful situations. This is the social phenomenon on attachment. Temperaments. Every baby expresses personality traits we call temperaments. How a child responds emotionally to objects, events, and people is a reflection of his individual temperaments. Researchers Alexander Thomas and Stiller Chess 1997 compiled a list of traits related to temperaments and includes activity level, amount of movement of the body activity, regulatory or rhythmicity, approach and withdrawal, adaptability, sensitivity, intensity, mood, distractibility, persistence, and strategy. Strategy learning, play, and friendship skills. Infants and toddlers are learning how to interact and play with others. Understanding and expressing emotions in healthy ways can help support and contribute to the development of social skills, including playing, making and keeping friends, and getting along with others. Week 14 is tackling about preschoolers' physical development. The significant change in physical development of a preschoolers is that the physical growth increases in the preschool years, although it is much slower in pace than infancy and toddlerhood. At around 3 years of age, preschoolers move slender appearance of a child. The trunk, arms, and legs become longer. This development also has gross and fine motor development. The gross motor development refers to acquiring skills, and fine motor development refers to acquiring the ability. Preschoolers' artistic development. At the heart of preschoolers' year is their interest to draw and make other form of artistic experiences. There are stages of drawing in early childhood. Stage 1 is the scribbling stage. Stage 2 is the pre-schematic stage. Stage 3 is the schematic stage. The preschooler's nutrition is a kind of nutrition a preschooler gets a far-reaching effect on his physical growth, and development. The preschooler's nutritional status is the result of what nutrition he or she actually takes in check against the nutritional requirement for her age. And lastly, the role of the caregivers in the growth and development of the preschooler. Optimum physical development of preschooler is largely influenced by the supportive caregivers, parents, and teachers who provide a stimulating environment and appropriate activities for the children. For week 15, this topic also focuses on cognitive development of the preschoolers. Not just the toddlers and the infants has this cognitive development, but also the preschoolers. The brain connection in the preschool years. Because of fascinating developments in neuroscience, brain development of young children has been of great interest to the field of early childhood. Language development. Young children's understanding sometimes gets ahead of their speech. As children go through early childhood, their grasp of the rules of language increases. Symbolic thinking involves language, literacy, and dramatic play. Children rapidly conclude the sounds linked together to make words, and words represents ideas, people, and things throughout the areas. For language and social interaction, Vygotsky believed that the young children use language both to communicate socially and to plan, guide, and monitor their behavior in a self-regulatory fashion called inner speech or private speech. For Pidgeot, speech is argumentative and immature, but for Vygotsky it is an important tool of throughout during early childhood. The information processing model is another way of examining and understanding how children develop cognitively. The theory of mind refers to individual thought about how mental processes work. By the age of 2 or 3, children become aware that mind exists as their representation of the world and ability to remember and solve problems improve. Children start to reflect on their own thought processes. They begin to construct a theory of mind or a set of ideas about mental preschoolers' cognitive development 2007. The caregiver's rule for the cognitive development of the preschoolers is learning about how preschoolers think and learn. One will realize that parents and teachers can do a lot either to help preschoolers develop their cognitive skills or impede them.